Hello dear students, welcome back again to Chinmoye's YouTube channel. So till now I have posted many videos on this skeletal system, so movement and locomotion rather. So in the previous video we have already told about the two parts, main parts of the skeletal system, that is the axial skeletal system and the appendicular skeletal system. I think you students have already gone through those two videos. If you have not gone through those videos, please I'm putting the link in my description box as well as I link above. I am putting all the videos which I have already posted in this movement and locomotion. Go through it because that will make your this lesson learning easier. So when you start learning these joints, if you have already gone through the previous lessons, it will be easier for you to grasp this lesson. So if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like and share my videos so that most of your friends can study in the systematic manner. So let us move on to today's topic, joints. That is, mainly we will be discussing about the functional classification of joints today. Now first we should know about the learning objectives for today's lesson. So first we should know that what is a joint. So what is a joint? Joint is we will be discussing in the next slide. So what are the functional classification of joints? In that functional classification we will be discussing about three types of joints, mainly immovable joints, partially movable joints and freely movable joints. Now let us see what is joint. Now, in general term, we all can say that what is joint. Now, joint is a point. Now, in which we can say that it helps you. It is a contact between the connective tissue and the bones. Now, between the cartilage and a bone, and between teeth and the bone. So, they all are joints. So, joint is a point of contact. Actually, what does it mean? It is a point of contact. It is contacting two bones by either a flexible connective tissue between both the bones, or between two bones and a cartilage in between, and between teeth and bones. Now if we want to tell it in a very beautiful manner, we can say that what is a joint? A joint or articulation is the connection between the bones, ossicles, or on the other hand we can say with other structures, hard structures in the body, which link an animal skeletal system into a functional whole. So this is actually a beautiful definition. So it is actually a connection which is made between bones, ossicles and other hard structures of the body. Any hard structure of the body which makes a link between the animal skeletal system into the functional whole. Now they are constructed actually to allow different degrees and different types of movements. Is it clear? Now we know a general example of different joints, we know that is the knee, the elbow, the shoulder. These all joints we know. These all are self-lubricating. They all are self-lubricating joints and almost frictionless. And they are able to withstand, we can say that they are able to withstand the compression and maintain the heavy loads, still executing smooth and precise movements. So is it clear to everyone? Now, other than other joints, like we know, we have studied in the previous video that there are sutures between the bones of the skull which permit very little movement. Okay, during the birth there is a certain kind of movement, but other than that the sutures of the brain, they don't have any movement. So they in order to protect the brain and the sense organs, there are bones, several bones which are joined in the skull also. Now, there is a connection between the teeth and the jawbone and is also called a joint, and it is described as a fibrous joint. So, teeth and the jawbone, which both are connected together, it is a fibrous joint and which is known as gum fossis. So, what is it known as? These are the new terms. I know you already have studied movement and locomotion in the previous smaller classes also. But here you will be learning or going through several new terms. Now, what is this joint called? This is called gum fossis, and joints are classified both structurally as well as functionally. So, this structural and functional thing we are going to discuss in today's video. Now, first we are going to discuss about the first function classification. We have got the immovable joints here. So what are immovable joints? Immovable joints are bones, actually bones which are firmly bound together by tough fibers and they are so, we can say that this is movement is not possible if that tough fibers are not there joined in between these two bones. Now, like joints between the bones of the skull, they are immovable, and they are bound together with some tough fibers. Now, here in this diagram, if you see, you can see in this diagram, if you want to see here, you can see that this part, this is actually the suture, and this is formed by fibrous connective tissue. So this part is the fibrous connective tissue which is binding this bone and this bone together. So this is the fibrous connective tissue which is binding both the bones together, and this both the bones, they are being tightly fixed in such a way that they are immovable. So generally during the birth time only, this bones, sutures, actually we can say that this skull bones or the immovable joints play a slight role, because during parturition, you will be studying in 10th standard, that during parturition the skull, the baby moves out with the help of the skull. So these bones are having a slight movement or slight function during that time. Other than that, they are mostly immovable, and they are meant mainly for the protection of the inner organs. Is it clear? So these are tough fibers, they are connected together with fibrous connective tissue, and these are the sutures, and they are mostly immovable, but they are also a part of joint. Is it clear? Now let us move on to the next part of the functional classification. So what is the second part? These are slightly movable or partially movable joints. Now these joints are very slightly or partially movable joints. Now we can say that the joints in which the bones can move a little against a pad of cartilage situated between them. So they are moving very little against the pad of cartilage situated in between them, and they are called partially movable joint. Now a vertebrae of vertebral column rather, there are several discs which are joined one above the other, so these are slightly movable joints. So the example is the vertebrae in the vertebral column, which are lying one above the another, and they are fixed with the help of some cartilage. So they are slightly movable joints. So this is the cartilage or the articular cartilage. These are the vertebrae. So this articular cartilage is joining these two vertebrae together, and they are slightly movable. Like if you are bending, if you are walking, so this two vertebrae, they are slightly or partially movable. Now comes the third part. Now in the last part, we are going to discuss about the freely movable joints. Now what we can say regarding this freely movable joints, we can say the joints which are freely moving freely are called the freely movable joints. Now there are mainly 70 freely movable joints in our body. So 70 freely movable joints in our body, and that is quite a large number, we can say, which are moving freely in our body are called the freely movable joints. Now how are they moving freely? They are rubbing together each other, and they are being joined by a very shiny slippery cartilage, and that cartilage is lubricated with what? With the synovial fluids. Now let us refer to this diagram first. Now if we are referring to this diagram, what we are going to see? If we are referring to this diagram, we are going to see that uh, this is a joint rather, and this is joined by an articular cartilage. So this cartilage is being joined, and there is a synovial membrane, and this part, they are secreting synovial fluid. So this is a new term. Now this, in between the cartilage, two bones, there is cartilage, and which is here, it is again having one fibrous this synovial membrane layer, and this layer is secreting synovial fluid. So this synovial fluid is a very important term, or we can say that synovial cavity. Synovial cavity is again a very new term to you all, because this synovial cavity is having the synovial fluid, which is making the cartilages very much slippery. Now where are these kinds of joints present? Mainly these kinds of joints are mainly present in the shoulder, knee and elbow. So this when we are going to discuss in the next video about the structural classification of joints, then we will be mainly dealing with the synovial fluid and synovial cavity. So but it's better to you understand now itself. So in between the two bones there is a space that is being joined by some articular cartilage. There is a synovial membrane, and this membrane secretes the synovial fluid. Now, there are immovable and slightly movable joints which are actually restricted to the axial skeletal system. So, immovable and slightly movable, we have already said earlier that they are being restricted to the axial skeletal system. And here the freely movable joints are found in the limbs. So, what are these limbs? These limbs are actually the appendicular skeletal system. So that is a part of appendicular skeletal system. So skeletal system, we have told that the axial skeletal system are mainly having the immovable and the slightly movable joints, and the appendicular skeletal system is having the freely movable joints. So the knee, the shoulder, the elbow, all are under the appendicular skeletal system. So if you have not yet gone through that appendicular skeletal and axial skeletal system video, please go through it. I'll be putting the link above as well as in the description box. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can keep on getting the updates. And if you are having any queries, any doubts, please do write in the comment box. As it is a distant mode of learning, we need to know what doubts you are having so that I can clear it all. Okay, so this is all for today's episode, and I'll be coming very shortly with the next part, that is the structural classification of joints. Thank you.